In a city where the sun kissed the marble walls of palaces and the streets echoed with the chatter of the bustling market, there was a mansion that stood taller than any other. Its gates, carved with delicate patterns of gold, open to a world of luxury that most people could only dream of. Inside, the rooms were adorned with rich carpets, sparkling chandeliers, and furniture that seemed to have been taken straight from a fairy tale. But in the midst of this grandeur lived a billionaire sheikh, a man known for his wealth and power. Despite all the riches around him, he had grown used to life in his golden cage, often wondering if true character existed beyond the walls of wealth. Outside the mansion, in a small, humble house not far from the main city road, lived a young girl with her mother. They were not rich, but they had each other, and that gave them a quiet strength. Her mother worked as a maid in the grand mansion, cleaning the floors, cooking meals, and making sure the place stayed perfect. The girl, though young, had learned to help her mother in every way she could. She carried baskets of laundry, ran errands, and sometimes even helped organize small events in the mansion. Despite the long hours and hard work, she never complained. Her laughter was gentle, her eyes curious, and her spirit bright, shining in a way that made even the grayest days feel lighter. The sheikh had noticed her a few times while she was running errands. Unlike others who seemed rushed or nervous in his presence, she moved with a calm confidence. Her eyes met his with honesty, never filled with fear or greed. She did not bow too low, nor did she try to charm him with flattery. There was something about her that intrigued him, a rare combination of humility and intelligence that seemed almost untouched by the world of wealth and power. One morning, as the sun rose and filled the mansion with a golden glow, the sheikh decided to observe her closely. She was carrying a tray with small plates of dates and sweets, moving carefully so nothing spilled. He watched as she balanced the tray on her small hands, her focus unwavering. He was struck by her attention to detail, the way she moved with purpose yet without hurry, as if each step had meaning. He wondered what went on in the mind of someone so young and yet so composed. As she approached the main hall where he often sat, he decided to do something unusual. He called her over and handed her a $1. It was a small gesture, almost insignificant to him, but he wanted to see how she would react. Many in her position might have been nervous, eager to please, or tempted to spend it on something for themselves. But he was looking for something else. He wanted to see character, wisdom, and the way she handled even the smallest opportunity. She looked at the dollar, and a soft smile appeared on her face. She did not rush to pocket it or spend it. Instead, she held it carefully, almost reverently, as if she understood its value in a way deeper than money alone. Her eyes met the sheikh's, not with greed or expectation, but with a quiet thoughtfulness. He was taken aback. There was something in her expression, a spark of intelligence and foresight that he had not anticipated. Curious, he asked her what she planned to do with the dollar. She paused for a moment, thinking carefully before answering. Her voice was gentle but confident. She did not boast, nor did she sound unsure. She explained that she wanted to use it in a way that could create more value, not for herself alone, but in a way that could help someone else or serve a meaningful purpose. Her words were simple, but they carried a depth that surprised him. It was clear she had thought beyond immediate gratification, beyond the simple pleasure of buying a small treat. She was thinking about impact, about kindness, about making the most of even a tiny opportunity. The sheikh felt a strange mix of admiration and disbelief. He had expected a quick, impulsive reaction, maybe a polite thank you, or even a moment of hesitation. But here was a young girl, barely old enough to understand the complexities of the world, already showing wisdom that many adults lacked. He realized that wealth could never measure the depth of a person's character. He had seen arrogance, cunning, and desire in people who had everything, yet this girl, with so little, possessed a richness far greater than gold. Days went by, and he continued to watch her quietly from a distance. She moved through the mansion with the same grace and thoughtfulness, treating everyone with respect, whether they were high-ranking staff or fellow helpers. She never sought attention, never demanded recognition. And yet, in the quietest moments, he noticed the way she observed the world, her eyes sharp, her mind calculating, her heart open. He began to wonder how a single dollar could be a window into such a remarkable soul. He started paying more attention to the small details of her life. How she helped the younger children in the neighborhood, how she treated animals with care, and how she always tried to find clever solutions to problems rather than complaining. Each observation added a layer to his understanding of her. The Sheikh began to feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. A sense of curiosity, a desire to understand someone not for their wealth, power, or status, but for the essence of who they were. One evening, as the sky turned a deep shade of orange and the city lights began to twinkle, he saw her helping her mother carry water and food for a small gathering in their modest home. She moved with the same calm precision, the same thoughtful energy he had seen in the mansion. It struck him how consistent she was, how integrity and kindness were woven into her very nature. It was a reminder that true character could not be bought, that wisdom often came in the most unexpected forms. That night, the Sheikh lay awake in his opulent bedroom, thinking about the young girl and the single dollar he had given her. He realized that this small gesture, intended perhaps as a test, had opened a door to something much larger. He had glimpsed the potential for greatness in someone so young and humble. And more importantly, he felt a stirring of admiration and respect, a recognition that true value was not measured by wealth alone, but by the choices one made, even with the smallest resources. The next morning, as the city awoke to another day, he decided to take a subtle step forward. He wanted to see what she would do next, how she would handle challenges, and how she would continue to grow. He could not yet predict the outcome, but he was certain of one thing. Her actions would leave a mark, not only on him but perhaps on the world around her. And in that thought, he felt a rare sense of anticipation, the excitement of witnessing true character in motion, a story unfolding before his eyes, starting with just one simple dollar. The next morning, the young girl woke up before sunrise. The cool breeze from the window brushed against her face, and she took a deep breath, thinking about the dollar she had received the day before. It wasn't just a piece of money to her. It represented an opportunity, a chance to do something meaningful. She knew she had to be careful and wise, because even though it was only a single dollar, every decision mattered. She had grown up learning that small actions could lead to big outcomes, and that even a little could make a difference when used with care. She helped her mother with the morning chores first. They swept the floor, prepared breakfast, and tidied the small house. Despite their limited means, the home always felt warm and full of love. The girl's mother admired her daughter's thoughtfulness and independence. She often said that her daughter had a mind far older than her years, and the girl would simply smile and continue her work quietly, never seeking praise but always striving to do her best. With the household ready, the girl stepped outside, holding the dollar carefully in her hands. She walked through the crowded streets, observing the market vendors and the neighbors opening their shops. Her eyes scanned the area, searching for a way to use the dollar wisely. She noticed a small boy crying because he had dropped his only coin while trying to buy bread. Without hesitation, she gave him a part of the dollar to buy the bread he needed. The boy's eyes lit up with gratitude, and the girl felt a quiet happiness she had never experienced before. She realized that even a small act of kindness could bring immense joy, and that the impact of a thoughtful choice could extend far beyond her imagination. As she continued walking, she saw a group of elderly women struggling to carry water from a well. They were tired and panting under the morning sun. The girl approached them and offered a small coin from her dollar to help them with a cart rental, something that would make their task easier. The women looked at her in surprise, touched by her thoughtfulness. They blessed her quietly, and she felt a deep satisfaction. She had started to see how one simple dollar could create ripples of goodness if used with purpose. After helping the elderly women, she decided to visit a small store where she could buy basic supplies that she could later sell or trade for more value. She bought some seeds, knowing that planting them could grow into vegetables or flowers that would benefit her mother and the neighborhood. Her mind worked like a small engine, constantly thinking of ways to maximize the dollar's potential. Every action she took was purposeful, showing not only her intelligence, but her determination to make a difference despite her humble circumstances. Meanwhile, the billionaire Sheikh watched from a distance. He had taken a keen interest in observing her actions, curious about how she would handle the opportunity he had given her. He saw her helping the boy and the elderly women, and he felt a mix of astonishment and admiration. He realized that her wisdom and compassion were beyond her years, and he began to understand that true value was not measured by money, but by the choices one made and the heart behind those choices. He could not help but feel a sense of pride in having witnessed this young girl's character unfold in front of him. The girl then returned to her mother with the small supplies she had purchased. Together, they planted the seeds in a small patch of land behind their house. She explained to her mother that she hoped the plants would grow and provide food for their family and neighbors. Her mother looked at her with pride and said nothing, understanding that her daughter's heart was full of love and wisdom. They worked together, laughing softly as they planted each seed, knowing that this small effort could bring lasting benefits in time. Later in the day, she visited a local charity center where she had heard that some families were struggling. She gave them a portion of her dollar's value in small necessities, like food and basic toiletries. The staff at the center were amazed at the girl's generosity and thoughtfulness. They asked her how she had managed to do so much with such a small amount. She simply smiled and said that it was important to help others, no matter how little she had. Her words were simple, but the impact was profound. People began to notice her not just as a maid's daughter, but as someone with a remarkable spirit and a kind heart. Back at the mansion, the Sheikh could not stop thinking about her actions. He realized that the dollar had become more than a test. It was a lesson for him as well. In his world of immense wealth, he had often seen money used carelessly, for selfish pleasure or fleeting satisfaction. But here was a young girl, using a single dollar to create happiness, solve problems, and inspire those around her. He began to reflect on his own life, wondering how much of his wealth truly contributed to the betterment of others and how much simply remained in vaults and accounts. As evening approached, the girl returned home. The small garden behind their house now looked like a promise for the future, and her mother was proud of her efforts. She placed the remaining part of the dollar carefully in a little box, thinking that it could grow even more over time. She felt a sense of responsibility and hope. She understood that her actions, though small, had the power to make a difference. And she also realized that her choices could teach others about kindness, intelligence, and the value of thinking beyond oneself. That night, as she lay in bed, she reflected on the day. The boy who had received bread smiled in her memory. The elderly women had blessed her silently. The seeds she had planted promised future nourishment, and the charity she had helped would make life easier for struggling families. Each moment filled her heart with a quiet joy. She understood that true happiness came not from wealth or possessions, but from using what little one had in meaningful ways. In his mansion, the Sheikh pondered the events of the day. He realized that he had underestimated the power of a single act of kindness and the depth of character that could exist in unexpected places. He saw the young girl not just as a maid's daughter, but as a beacon of wisdom and integrity. Her ability to see value beyond money, to think creatively, and to act with compassion left him both stunned and inspired. He began to wonder how many others in his world had such potential, hidden beneath layers of circumstance and status. As the night deepened, the Sheikh made a quiet promise to himself. He wanted to watch her journey, to see how her choices would shape not only her own life but the lives of those around her. He felt a rare excitement, knowing that he had stumbled upon a story of true character unfolding before him. And he knew that this was only the beginning. How she would continue to use the dollar, and what lessons he would learn from her, remained to be seen. The young girl, meanwhile, slept peacefully, unaware of the profound impression she had made. Her dreams filled with hope, kindness, and the endless possibilities of what one small dollar could do. The next morning, the young girl woke with a sense of purpose. She remembered how the small actions from the day before had brought smiles and relief to people around her. Even though the dollar was still only a dollar, she understood its power when used wisely. She started her day early, helping her mother clean and prepare breakfast. Together, they worked in quiet harmony, speaking in soft tones, sharing small laughter between tasks. It was a humble home, but filled with warmth, lessons, and love. After finishing the morning chores, she thought about what else she could do to make her dollar meaningful. She wanted to continue spreading good in ways that could leave lasting effects. As she walked through the busy streets of the neighborhood, she noticed the small problems people faced each day. Some vendors were struggling to set up their stalls because they didn't have enough coins for supplies. She quietly offered them a small portion from her dollar, enough to help them get started. Their faces brightened, and they thanked her with genuine warmth. The girl felt a quiet happiness knowing she could make even a small difference in someone's life. She then visited a local school where children from underprivileged families came to learn. The classroom was small, with old desks and worn-out books, but the children's eyes sparkled with curiosity. She decided to use a part of her dollar to buy stationery supplies for them. She handed out pencils and notebooks, and the children's faces lit up. They looked at her in surprise and joy, asking how such a young girl could think of them. She simply smiled and told them that everyone deserves a chance to learn, and even small things can matter a lot. Watching the children carefully write in their new notebooks, she realized that education was a tool that could grow far more valuable than money itself. Meanwhile, the sheik watched quietly from a distance, observing her actions. He was deeply impressed. He had seen many people with power and wealth, but rarely had he witnessed someone use so little to create so much good. The girl's creativity, wisdom, and compassion stunned him. He realized that her choices were guided by an inner sense of morality and understanding that few adults possessed. Her small actions were creating a ripple effect of kindness that reached far beyond her immediate surroundings. As the day progressed, the girl noticed a stray dog near the market, looking hungry and tired. She bought a small piece of bread with a part of her dollar and gave it to the dog. The animal wagged its tail and followed her for a little while, showing trust and affection. She smiled, understanding that her small act of kindness had brightened another life. Every small gesture mattered, and each act of generosity added a sense of fulfillment to her day. Later, she walked past a street where elderly men and women sat under the hot sun, selling fruits and vegetables. Many of them struggled to attract customers. She offered a little assistance, using a part of her remaining dollar to buy some of their goods and then sharing them with neighbors who could not afford them. This simple act brought relief and smiles, creating a sense of community. People started to notice her as someone who genuinely cared about the well-being of others, someone who acted selflessly even with very little. She also visited a local bakery where a man struggled to sell his freshly baked bread. He had just enough to cover the cost, but no extra to give away or help anyone. The girl decided to buy a few pieces with a part of her dollar, and she gave them to children who were hungry after school. The joy on the children's faces was priceless. She understood that even small contributions could leave a lasting impact, and that giving selflessly created a sense of satisfaction deeper than any reward money could buy. Throughout the day, the girl continued to make careful decisions about the dollar. She split it into small portions, each used to address a small problem, bring happiness, or teach someone a lesson about hope and care. By evening, her dollar had created tiny changes everywhere she went. A school with better supplies, a vendor with a bit of relief, a stray dog fed, hungry children satisfied, and elderly vendors appreciated. Though it seemed like nothing to some, each action was significant, and together they created a pattern of kindness that grew larger than its parts. Back at the mansion, the sheik reflected on what he had seen. He realized that he had underestimated the power of intention. The girl was not just smart. She was thoughtful, strategic, and compassionate. Her ability to see opportunity where others saw little value was remarkable. He began to wonder if wealth alone could ever teach such lessons, or if it was character that truly defined greatness. His respect for her grew with each action she took, and he felt inspired to rethink his own approach to wealth and influence. As night fell, the girl returned home. She placed the remaining portion of the dollar carefully in a small box, knowing it still had potential. She had learned that even a single dollar could touch many lives if used with intention and care. Her mother greeted her with a proud smile, understanding that her daughter's heart was full of thoughtfulness and wisdom. They sat together, sharing stories of the day and reflecting on the joy that came from helping others. Despite the hardships they faced, there was a sense of hope and purpose in their home. The Sheikh, meanwhile, remained in his mansion, thinking about the lessons he had witnessed. He realized that his wealth, though vast, had limitations when it came to understanding true value. The girl had used a simple dollar to teach him something priceless. That intelligence, kindness, and creativity could transform even the smallest resources into something extraordinary. Her actions were a reminder that true richness came from how one used what they had, not merely from what they possessed. The next morning, the Sheikh decided to pay closer attention to her. He wanted to see how her journey with the dollar would continue, what new ways she would find to make an impact, and how her small but thoughtful actions could inspire change around her. He felt a sense of anticipation and curiosity, realizing that this young girl had the potential to teach lessons far beyond money or wealth. Her life, though humble, was full of depth, and every choice she made seemed to carry meaning. For the girl, each day brought a new understanding of responsibility and opportunity. She realized that even the smallest resource could be a powerful tool if handled wisely. Her confidence grew, as did her awareness of the importance of empathy, foresight, and careful thought. She began to understand that real success was not about personal gain but about the positive influence one could create in the lives of others. With each act, she planted seeds, not only in the soil behind her home, but in the hearts and minds of everyone she helped. As the night settled in, the Sheikh thought about the path ahead. He knew that the girl's journey with the dollar was far from over. Each decision she made would continue to reveal her character, her intelligence, and her compassion. He felt a deep respect and admiration for her, and he began to consider how he might guide or support her without interfering with her natural wisdom and judgment. He realized that the story unfolding before him was not just about a single dollar. It was about the remarkable potential of one person to inspire, create, and lead through thoughtful action. And so, the young girl slept peacefully that night, her dreams filled with possibilities. She did not know the full extent of the impact she had made, but she felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that her choices had brought smiles, relief, and hope to others. The Sheikh, in his grand mansion, lay awake thinking of her actions, realizing that true value and greatness often came from unexpected places, and that wisdom, kindness, and intelligence could make even a single dollar create a world of difference. The next morning, the young girl woke with the first light of dawn streaming through the window. She felt a quiet excitement and determination. The lessons of the past days had taught her that even small actions could make a significant difference, and she wanted to continue using her dollar in ways that could create value and kindness around her. She began her day helping her mother with household chores, sweeping the floor, washing dishes, and preparing a simple breakfast. They worked together in silence, sharing smiles and gentle laughter. Despite their modest home, it always felt full of warmth and hope. After finishing her tasks, she stepped outside with the dollar in her hand. She walked through the streets, observing the familiar sights of the bustling marketplace. She noticed the small struggles of everyday life, the shopkeepers trying to make ends meet, the children looking hungry after school, the elderly carrying heavy loads. She understood that even a small contribution could bring relief, happiness, and hope to these people. Her mind was calm, yet sharp, as she decided how to best use her dollar to help in multiple ways. She first approached a small boy sitting alone, holding an empty basket. He looked sad and disappointed. She learned that he wanted to buy a small loaf of bread to share with his younger sibling but had no money. Without hesitation, she gave him a small portion of the dollar, enough to buy the bread. The boy's eyes sparkled with gratitude, and a bright smile spread across his face. The girl felt a quiet warmth in her heart, realizing how a small act of generosity could create joy and hope for someone who needed it most. Next, she moved toward a group of elderly women struggling to carry water and firewood. Their hands were tired, their steps slow. She used a part of her dollar to rent a small cart for them, which would make their daily chores easier. The women were astonished and deeply thankful for her thoughtfulness. They blessed her softly, and she felt a quiet pride, knowing that her small act had made their lives a little lighter and happier. Each moment reinforced the lesson that compassion, when combined with intelligence and creativity, could bring unexpected solutions. The girl continued her journey through the market, noticing a bakery struggling to sell bread. The baker had made extra but had no customers, and some bread risked going to waste. She decided to buy a few pieces with a part of her dollar and distributed them to children who appeared hungry. Their laughter and delighted chatter filled the streets. She realized that simple kindness could bring immeasurable happiness, and she began to understand that helping others could be a source of true satisfaction that money alone could never provide. Meanwhile, the billionaire sheikh watched silently from a balcony above the marketplace. Each action of the young girl surprised him more than the last. He had observed wealthy and powerful individuals make decisions for self-interest, but rarely had he seen someone use even the smallest resource so thoughtfully, creatively, and compassionately. Her actions reflected intelligence, careful planning, and a heart full of empathy. He realized that her ability to think ahead, anticipate needs, and act with generosity was beyond what many adults could accomplish, regardless of their wealth. Later, she visited a local school with worn-out benches and outdated books. She used another portion of her dollar to buy pencils and paper for the students. Their eyes lit up when they received the supplies, and they eagerly began writing and drawing. The teachers were amazed at her generosity and thoughtfulness. They asked her how she managed to do so much with such a small amount of money. She replied simply that it was important to think about others, and even a little could create big happiness if used wisely. Her words were gentle, but the impact was powerful. She had started to influence not only her immediate community but also the way people thought about kindness and resourcefulness. The girl then noticed a stray dog shivering by the side of the road, thin and weak. She bought a small piece of bread with a part of her remaining dollar and fed the dog. The animal wagged its tail, showing trust and affection. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, understanding that even small gestures toward those who could not speak or ask for help mattered. Each action, however small, could create a ripple effect that touched lives in ways unseen. In the evening, she returned to her home, placing the remaining portion of the dollar carefully in a small box. She had used the day's dollar in multiple ways, creating small waves of change, happiness, and hope. She shared the stories of the day with her mother, recounting the smiles, laughter, and blessings she had received in return. Her mother looked at her with pride, silently acknowledging the strength, wisdom, and kindness that her daughter carried within her. The girl understood that real wealth was not in money alone, but in the actions that brought joy and relief to others. The sheikh, in his grand mansion, could not stop thinking about the young girl. He had seen how she turned a single dollar into multiple acts of goodness, how she thought carefully about every choice, and how she acted with integrity and compassion. He realized that wealth was not enough to create meaning. It was wisdom, kindness, and thoughtful action that defined true richness. The girl had taught him a lesson he would never forget, that even small resources could create extraordinary impact when guided by intelligence and heart. As night fell, he decided to take a closer look at the girl's daily actions. He wanted to observe how she would continue to use the dollar, how her wisdom would grow, and how her choices would shape the lives of those around her. He felt a sense of anticipation, knowing that her journey was far from over. Each step she took reflected thought, care, and a desire to make the world better, and he knew that the lessons she would teach were invaluable. The girl, meanwhile, lay in bed, thinking about the people she had helped, the smiles she had received, and the small changes she had brought to her community. She realized that her actions were only the beginning, that her choices could continue to grow in impact, and that even a single dollar could become a symbol of hope and kindness. She drifted into sleep with a heart full of satisfaction and dreams filled with the endless possibilities of helping others, understanding that true happiness and success were measured not by what one had, but by what one gave and created through thoughtfulness, compassion, and action. The sheikh lay awake in his mansion, reflecting on the girl's actions. He understood that the dollar had become more than a test. It was a lesson for him as well. Watching her, he realized that character, kindness, and intelligence were the true measures of value. He admired her ability to think ahead, act with care, and use limited resources to create meaningful change. He knew that the story of this young girl and her single dollar was not just about money, but about life, choices, and the power of thoughtful action. He was eager to see what she would do next and how she would continue to shape the world around her. The next day began like any other, with the sun rising softly over the city, casting a warm glow on the streets and houses. The young girl woke up early, carrying with her the sense of purpose that had guided her in the past days. She had learned that even the smallest acts of kindness could have far-reaching effects, and the dollar she had received from the sheik was no longer just a coin. It had become a symbol of opportunity, responsibility, and hope. She started her day by helping her mother with their usual chores, sweeping the floor, preparing breakfast, and making sure everything in their small home was in order. They moved together with quiet efficiency, their bond strengthened by love and understanding. After finishing her morning tasks, the girl stepped out into the bustling streets of the city. The marketplace was already alive with activity, with vendors calling out to sell their goods and children playing in narrow alleys. She carried the remaining portion of the dollar carefully, thinking about the best way to use it for meaningful impact. She observed the people around her, noticing their needs and the little struggles that often went unseen. Her heart was attuned to the quiet cries for help, and her mind worked with careful consideration on how to turn her small resource into a force for good. She first approached a small bakery at the corner of the street. The baker had leftover bread that could not be sold for the day and was worried about wasting it. She decided to buy the bread with part of her remaining dollar and distributed it to children who were hungry after school. The children's faces lit up with surprise and joy as they received the unexpected gift. Their laughter filled the streets, and the girl felt a quiet warmth in her heart, knowing that her small decision had brought happiness to others. She understood that even simple acts could leave lasting impressions and that generosity, when thoughtful, could create ripples of goodness in the world. Next, she noticed an elderly man sitting on the steps of a small shop, looking tired and weary. He had been selling fruits all day, and no one had come to buy from him. The girl used another part of her dollar to buy some of his fruits and shared them with people nearby who were struggling. The man's eyes filled with gratitude, and he blessed her softly. She smiled, knowing that her actions, though small, had lightened the burdens of others and spread kindness in ways she could not measure. Each encounter strengthened her belief that thoughtful actions, even from a young person, could create meaningful change. As she continued through the market, she saw children trying to play with broken toys. She decided to use a part of her dollar to buy small supplies to repair the toys. She carefully fixed the toys and handed them back to the children, who cheered and clapped with excitement. Their joy was infectious, and the girl realized that happiness could be nurtured with small gestures of care and attention. The experience reinforced her understanding that every action, no matter how minor it seemed, had the power to influence lives positively. Meanwhile, the billionaire sheikh observed her from a distance. He was amazed at how thoughtfully she used her dollar, creating happiness and solving problems with careful, purposeful actions. He had witnessed many wealthy individuals, but few had the foresight, compassion, and intelligence that this young girl displayed. She had transformed a single dollar into a tool for kindness, generosity, and positive change. He realized that true wealth was not measured by money alone, but by the ability to make a difference in the lives of others. Later, she visited a small community center where children and adults gathered for learning and support. She used the remaining portion of the dollar to provide basic supplies for the center. The staff were amazed by her thoughtfulness and resourcefulness. They asked how she had managed to make such a meaningful impact with so little money. She replied softly, explaining that even a small resource, when used wisely, could touch many lives. Her words were simple, yet powerful, leaving a lasting impression on everyone present. She had become a symbol of hope and cleverness in her community, showing that age and wealth did not limit the power to create change. As the day wore on, she helped a stray dog she had seen near the marketplace. The dog was weak and hungry, and she fed it with small scraps she had collected. The animal wagged its tail in gratitude, and the girl felt a deep satisfaction. She realized that kindness extended to all living beings and that her actions had consequences beyond human interactions. Her empathy and care for every part of her environment reflected her unique understanding of the world and her commitment to making it better. By evening, she returned home, exhausted but content. She had used the dollar in multiple ways, spreading joy, relief, and hope across her neighborhood. She shared the stories of her day with her mother, describing the smiles, laughter, and blessings she had encountered. Her mother listened quietly, filled with pride and admiration for her daughter's wisdom, compassion, and thoughtfulness. Together, they reflected on the meaning of generosity, learning, and the responsibility of using resources wisely. Even in their modest home, they felt a sense of richness that could not be measured by money alone. The sheikh, in his luxurious mansion, could not stop thinking about what he had observed. The girl had transformed a single dollar into a series of thoughtful, impactful actions that touched many lives. He realized that her intelligence, creativity, and kindness were extraordinary. She had not only used the dollar wisely but had also taught him a lesson about true wealth, responsibility, and the power of small actions. He felt inspired and deeply moved, understanding that real value lay not in money, but in character, thoughtfulness, and the ability to make a positive difference. As night fell, the girl lay in bed, reflecting on the day's events. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her actions had created happiness and relief for others. She understood that the dollar had become more than money. It had become a tool for learning, generosity, and empowerment. She dreamed of a future where small actions could continue to create big changes, and she felt hopeful that her choices would inspire others to act with care and compassion. The sheikh lay awake in his grand mansion, thinking about the young girl and the remarkable way she had handled the dollar. He realized that his wealth could never teach him the lessons she had already learned at such a young age. Her ability to think ahead, act with kindness, and maximize even the smallest resource had left him in awe. He understood that she possessed wisdom, integrity, and a heart full of empathy, qualities far more valuable than money or status. He felt privileged to witness her journey and began to consider how he might support her growth without interfering with her natural intelligence and moral compass. The next morning, the girl woke with renewed energy and determination. She understood that her journey with the dollar had taught her valuable lessons about generosity, responsibility, and the ripple effect of thoughtful action. She felt confident in her ability to make a difference, knowing that every choice, no matter how small, could create a positive impact. Her dreams were no longer limited by circumstance or wealth. They were guided by purpose, empathy, and the belief that even one person could change the world through careful, kind actions. The sheikh continued to observe her from a distance, inspired by her courage, intelligence, and integrity. He realized that the young girl was not just a maid's daughter but a symbol of hope, wisdom, and the extraordinary potential of human character. Her story had become a lesson for him and everyone who learned of her actions. That true richness lies not in what one possesses but in how one uses it, the kindness one shows, and the lives one touches. The dollar had become more than currency. It had become a bridge to understanding, compassion, and the power of thoughtful action. And so, the young girl's life continued, guided by the lessons of the dollar, her heart full of empathy, her mind sharp and thoughtful, and her spirit determined to make a difference. Her actions inspired everyone around her, including the billionaire Sheikh, who realized that the greatest treasures in life are not measured by wealth, but by the goodness, wisdom, and integrity one carries and shares with the world. The story of the single dollar, used with care, thoughtfulness, and kindness, became a reminder that even the smallest opportunities could lead to extraordinary outcomes when guided by a pure heart and a wise mind.